Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. In the middle of a workday, and for some reason I'm thinking boxing. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk about this upcoming heavyweight fight between Wladimir Klitschko and David Haye. Now, before I go further, let me just say the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this opinion to be a second opinion on the fight. Let me also say that we're all human. None of us are perfect. I'm going to make some very critical comments about some heavyweights here in this video, but understand that while my comments are critical, I have the utmost admiration for these fighters. Just understand that I've never seen the perfect heavyweight champion. You know, you go back through history, the biggest names, Ali, never really went to the body, couldn't really lead. When forced to take the lead, in my opinion, fell apart against Jimmy Young. Joe Louis, all I could say with Joe Louis is the foot speed was lacking. Billy Conn, quite frankly, had the heavyweight championship in his grasp and gave it away toward the end of that fight. You wonder what would happen if Lewis had to face the kind of movement that an Ali or a modern heavyweight could throw at him. Larry Holmes, the dominant heavyweight when I was a kid, just understand Larry Holmes was knocked down by Ronaldo Snipes. Larry Holmes was knocked down by Ernie Shavers. Shavers came this close to taking Larry Holmes' title. Holmes, blessed with the best heavyweight jab I've ever seen. Holmes just didn't have the foot speed, just didn't have the athleticism. Mike Tyson, um, about as good as I have ever seen a heavyweight. And keep in mind, I was raised post Ali, really. Was Mike Tyson 1988 over Michael Spinks. At the time, we thought that Tyson might be the best ever. But Tyson was shown to not be able to cope with a guy applying inside pressure on him, right? Evander Holyfield came inside on Mike Tyson. To this day, I don't think Tyson has a clue how to deal with that kind of inside pressure, right? If you recall, Tyson was so frustrated, he ended up biting Holyfield's ear. Literally, go through history. Rocky Marciano retired unbeaten. What I would encourage everyone to do is actually take a look at the film of his first fight with Jersey Joe Walcott, very underrated heavyweight. Understand that Rocky goes down in that fight, and he looks amateurish in that fight. Power is the great equalizer. Marciano takes the title right later in that fight with a 13th round knockout. Understand Rocky up until that point was completely dominated, had been knocked down in the fight, was also knocked down by Archie Moore. The other problem with Marciano, of course, is look at the ages of the guys he fought, understanding that, back then, people like Joe Louis were considered old fighters, and you realize that he was fighting Joe Louis, he was fighting Archie Moore. These guys are great fighters, but just understand that Marciano really wasn't fighting a lot of young, robust guys after he got the title. Also understand that those in the building thought that Roland Lastarza from the Bronx, where I went to high school, beat him the first time. Even Marciano's very good friend, Lou Duva, big name in boxing, believes that Rocky Marciano lost that first Lastarza fight. Jack Johnson, I'll just say this about Jack Johnson. Again, gave the illusion of invincibility when he beat Jim Jeffries. Just understand that Johnson was a defensive fighter who, like Ali, had a hard time taking the lead. That's what Jess Willard forced him to do. So we all have weaknesses. Wladimir Klitschko, David Haye, let me just say, I see two guys, neither of whom can fight inside, right? Let me go further on this fight. My opinion on this fight has actually evolved. It's changed somewhat. On YouTube, you'll see I have some older videos where at that time I thought that the Klitschkos would be able to walk through David Haye. I don't think so anymore. I actually believe that this fight is a toss-up. I see the odds are Wladimir Klitschko 4-7, right? David Haye, you get almost 2-1 odds. The way I would this, the one thing about this fight that I think I know, besides it being a toss-up, is that David Haye cannot win this fight by decision, right? He simply doesn't have the volume. He doesn't throw a jab. He doesn't have those things that would enable him to win more rounds over a 12-round fight than Wladimir Klitschko. Understand, he cannot land 5 to 7 punches around like he did against Nikolai Valuev and beat a fighter like Wladimir Klitschko with Wladimir Klitschko's volume, right? When the guys are, having downtime, when they're just in the middle of the ring, feeling each other out, Wladimir Klitschko is going to be throwing a jab. He's the taller man already. He's going to look like he's the aggressor during the slow moments in the fight, right? And so understand David Haye just is not active enough to win this fight by decision. What I do believe, though, and the way I would play this fight, is I believe that David Haye has as much a chance of winning this fight as Wladimir Klitschko. The straddle I would play would be, and it's a dual straddle. I don't believe one happens more than the other. I'm not saying there's a main bet here. I believe it's a betting strategy. You want to take Wladimir Klitschko to win the fight, because Klitschko can win either by knockout or by decision, and you want to straddle that against David Haye by KO, right? Since David Haye right now is roughly a 2-1 underdog against Wladimir Klitschko, I think David Haye by KO is probably going to get you 3-1 odds, if not more. So that gives you an opportunity, and you're going to have to juggle the numbers on your own, to juggle a minus 200 against a plus 300 to make money if either happens, right? So again, the bet I believe happens in this fight is Klitschko to win, straddled against Haye by KO. The option I would eliminate would be David Haye by decision. Let's talk about the fight. Two very different fight styles. Wladimir Klitschko, all I could say is, and again, it's a fault of his, he's not an artist. He's a soldier. They're two different things. By an artist, I mean someone who makes their own decisions on the fly in the middle of the ring, right? These are the fighters I call adaptive reactive fighters. I believe we intuitively know who fighters like this are, right? Sergio Martinez, Floyd Mayweather, Carl Froch, Juan Manuel Marquez. These are guys who, whatever their corner's telling them, they'll change their strategy in the ring based on what they're seeing. Roy Jones, right? Now contrast that with fighters who, quite frankly, might not be able to respond to what they're seeing, or might be so caught up in following orders, right? They follow orders that they aren't really looking for cues to adjust their game plan, right? Oscar De La Hoya, back in the day, looked fluid in the ring. I enjoyed watching Oscar. The bottom line, though, is if you track Oscar fights, you're going to realize that he really only made decisions when his corner told him to make decisions. I've seen Oscar talk about how he gave away a fight he was winning handily against then unbeaten Felix Trinidad, and all Oscar says is that his corner told him that he was ahead in the fight, and so he then, listened to his corner the last few rounds in fighting a move away type of fight, right? Wladimir Klitschko, he's not the person fighting David Haye. I believe Wladimir is really Emmanuel Stewart. It's Emmanuel Stewart versus David Haye. I don't believe Wladimir Klitschko makes adjustments in the ring, right? I believe Wladimir Klitschko is very robotic. I think he follows orders. I think that what's going to happen is he's going to come out. He knows he has a weak chin. He has been down. He has been knocked out. Corey Sanders, take a look at that fight. Layman Brewster, take a look at that fight. If you want to go way back, Ross Purity, take a look at that fight. He has a problem pacing himself. He needs to be told what to do. Um, he's going to come out. He's not a fighter type who sees an opportunity and then unloads the gun. He's going to come out. He's going to shoot a jab at first. Then he's going to start throwing left hooks off the jab. Take a look at the Ray Austin tape. He knocks out Ray Austin in 2 rounds, never throws a right hand the entire fight, right? He doesn't throw his right hand until later in the fight. You're not going to see the Wladimir Klitschko that you saw in the 12th round against Eddie Chambers, where you saw the foot speed, you saw the aggression, you actually saw him using his tools. You're not going to see that guy until the 4th, 5th, or 6th round unless he's forced to in the middle of a shootout. Right now, all I'm saying is David Haye, much more artistic. The question to look at, I believe the first 4 rounds of this fight are going to be some of the best 4 rounds of boxing in all of 2011, right? The only other first 4 rounds that are going to be comparable will probably be Shane Mosley against Manny Pacquiao. And the reason I say that is this. Early in this fight, David Haye knows exactly what Wladimir Klitschko is going to do. He's not going to see the right hand aggressively. He's certainly not going to see a right hand lead. He's going to see a soldier fighter, a robotic fighter, just shooting a jab, trying to touch him. The question for viewers, it's the $1 million question in this fight, is can Wladimir Klitschko land that lead jab against David Haye with regularity? If the answer is yes, this is a lopsided fight. It's a walkthrough for Wladimir Klitschko. If the answer is no, and I believe it's a coin flip, it's debatable because Haye is a singular talent. If the answer is no, then I believe Wladimir Klitschko not only loses the fight, I believe Wladimir Klitschko gets knocked out. David Haye is not going to throw a lead jab. Understand what David Haye's style is about is he's outside of the other fighter's punching range, right? He's feinting. Instead of throwing a jab, he's feinting, looking for openings. When he sees an opening, he's going to throw very heavy punches from around his waist. Understand, his hands are going to be low. He's not trying to win a decision. He's trying to take out his opponent. Look at his record. Very few David Haye fights go the distance. He's just trying to land a big punch. He's not trying to box you. He's just trying to hit you. Understand, it's an effective strategy because if you're a great inside fighter and you know how to parry shots and counter punch and shoulder roll, understand David Haye isn't engaging you enough for those skills to become relevant. He's outside your range. This is kind of like Roberto Duran versus Thomas Hearns. Only Hearns' fight was shooting a jab. Here, David Haye is going to shoot feints. Then he's going to try to catch Wladimir Klitschko flush. The best decision David Haye made was on picking the right Klitschko to fight. He's fighting a robot who's not a natural fighter. I know Wladimir Klitschko's talking about easy paydays. He's talking a lot of smack. The bottom line is he's going to be in there in the early rounds only shooting a jab. Even though he has foot speed, he's going to be afraid to use it because if you aggressively come forward, you leave yourself open. David Haye's opponents, about 45 seconds into the fight, realized they're up against the guy with great hand speed, who quite frankly, pound for pound, is one of the hardest punchers in the entire sport. And so I believe that Haye is simply going to go for the knockout. I believe that Klitschko might have a problem landing his jab. I do not expect this to be like Klitschko against Calvin Brock, Klitschko against Ray Austin, where he's landing the jab, then he's able to drop right hands in the case of Brock, or left hooks in the case of Ray Austin. Let me know what you think. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com.